Good morning, everybody. It's Des here with Civilian Education, and we are here to shoot episode 6. Oh my gosh, episode 6. Episode 6 of the Go Viral haircutting series. So today we're going to be doing our third haircut, and that is going to be the shag. So today is really exciting. I feel like yesterday's tutorial was really great because the knot shag I think is incredibly relevant. Those pictures should be going up probably later today or tomorrow. It seems like I've been getting them up next day. So if you look at my wall now, you will see finals from the triple threat layer that's up, and of course that video is on YouTube for you to watch there. And then the finals, which I just did this morning, I've been doing these micro finishing videos. They're like 50 seconds long, or less than that actually, like 30 seconds long. But just to give you an idea that there's some finishing work, I talked about that yesterday, some finishing work that needs to happen, some refinement that needs to happen on these haircuts. But for the most part, it's very minimal. That's what you see in the video is all I'm doing. So that is up in a series. You can scroll and see a couple pictures of the finals and then that mini video. So check that out. That's on my Instagram feed. And then the full video, if you click the link in the bio, you can see the full video for the haircut tutorial. Anyway, what I was saying is that the knot shag is great because it's so relevant in the salon. I feel like I'm using it all the time. But today we're going to be doing a shag, which is just really fun. I think everybody loves cutting a shag. I think they're really, really cool haircuts. It feels like as this trend has been kind of settling in, I felt like it's really helped me identify who I am as a hairdresser and what it is that I really like in my haircuts. So some element of a shag is a lot of what I find myself creating for many, many guests. So today we're gonna do my take on that full shag, which is so exciting. Okay, so the things that I want you to take away from this video that are really important to me and my technique. This is a wet cut. So, I mean, right now if you look on Instagram and you hashtag shag haircut, you can find tons of tutorials, tons of videos, and people offering suggestions on how to cut them or how to finish them or how to dry them. There's really a lot of education around this right now, and I think all of it is great. I think everyone should have their own approach. Everyone should have their own brand. That's part of the fun. For me, what I want you to understand from this whole haircutting series is that I like systems in haircutting. I like to have tutorials or outlines or a pretty consistent system to help me stay on time, to help me create balance in the haircut, which I feel like is really important, or necessary imbalance to make it look balanced. So with bone structures and growth patterns, sometimes we need to create a intentional imbalance to make the haircut look balanced once it's dry and styled. So I can control that. I can contour this shape for the texture, for the density, for the bone structure, and for the lifestyle, the way the guest is going to style it or not style it. I customarily, not always, I do both wet and dry cutting in the salon. So I really like all the techniques. They're all techniques in my tool bag. I like precision cutting. I like dry cutting. I like visual cutting. I like razor cutting. I don't subscribe to any one of those. I use them all, and sometimes I use them in combination. But when it comes to wet cutting, I feel as though I have that sense of control, and if I'm moving someone from a different haircut into a new haircut, I can really think through the weight distribution, put in sort of a rough and quick shape through my wet cutting, and then do a lot of finishing work in the end for refinement to help really bring that haircut all the way home, if that makes sense. So this wet system is a great tool for taking someone from something long and heavy or medium length and heavy into a shag. So it will get rid of a lot of the weight internally pretty quickly, so you can have sort of a rough concept of what you're working with and then continue to go from there, okay? Secondarily, this is going to help reinforce a lot of the sectioning that we've been talking about. It's going to help reinforce some of the comb control, some of the tension control, and things that are really, really important in hair cutting. So if you're learning to cut hair or really reestablishing a stronger technique, this is a modern haircut. It's really relevant. You can use it behind the chair, but it's also going to help you reinforce some of those basic skills in your work, which is incredibly important. Even as your work starts to evolve into different techniques, those foundational skills never get any less important. If you're cutting hair visually, how you're holding the hair in your comb or in your fingers matters. Where you stand matters. Even if you're cutting hair dry, where you stand and how you're holding and distributing the hair, how you're holding your scissor, that matters. So this helps to reinforce some of that technique. As I said in the beginning of this series, I am using a consistent sectioning pattern to help you practice and refine as you work through all the different tutorials. So one mannequin head, I think we're gonna end up doing 6 different haircuts on this mannequin head, and it's really gonna take you through a lot of foundational skills. So we're gonna be using exactly the same sectioning pattern as we did yesterday in the knot shag, just some different cutting angles. So that's gonna be really fun because it's gonna help you kind of rethink through your weight distribution as far as how you're holding the hair and your technique. It's also going to help you reinforce some of the same skills that we talked about yesterday. Sound great? Okay, so we have our Viola mannequin, same mannequin that I've been using. Yesterday when I did some finishing work, I did not change her outline at all. One of the things that I really feel strongly about with a full modern shag is that it's truly a very round shape and that you want to see as much length in the haircut as possible. So the haircut's gonna function almost a little bit like a pixie or a short shape, but you're still maintaining some of that length in the perimeter. Most of that length is going to come through the back. It's going to be disconnected from the front, but I really love seeing natural hair texture kind of framing out the features of the face and then seeing more of it fall onto the décolleté. So I left Viola's perimeter. I left all of the length that we had left on her, and we're gonna use that in our look today so we can work with maximum length, okay? So as you're getting started, we're gonna start the same way that we've been starting. So I'm gonna come through and put in a nice grid onto the head so I can really get a feel, especially as we talked about. This technique is going to work great on someone who has long hair and is moving into a shag, or has a lot of weight in their hair and is moving into a shag. And so it is quite nice to be able to start to work through the bones, feel the hair, look for growth patterns, kind of start to uncover some of that texture. I know the hair is wet, so you're not going to see a lot of the texture, but hopefully you have started to think through some of that as you were consulting with them and observing their dry hair. And so this step is really important if we're going to be cutting this wet, because we really want to start to understand what is going to happen as we take so much weight out of this hair. How is it going to move? How is it going to evolve? Okay, so one of the first things I want you to notice is as we put in this quadrant, if you look closely, I've I've brought this forward. So when we did our initial sectioning the first time, we looked at where the hair naturally split, and where it split from the back to the side or toward the front, that's where we chose to split it. This is a key piece. What we want is some of the hair in the perimeter from the back to kind of be pushing over the shoulder. So we're gonna be disconnecting this just like we did yesterday, but we want to move this section up a little bit so that some of this hair that's long is still falling forward. And that is really important. Now, well, we'll just leave it at that for today. Okay. Lost my train of thought there for a second. Okay, so here have a nice quadrant, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Got my pointer finger in there to help me establish my subsection. Oops. All right, so you can see on this side, we've come up quite close to the ear. Hi, give you a wave. Good morning. Okay. All right, so now step 2, we're gonna put in those triangles and create that diamond shape through the top. This is going to be the biggest change that we're gonna have, is we're actually gonna reverse the triangle here, so it's actually not gonna be a diamond shape. So we're gonna put the wide end of the triangle here up to the tight end at the the crown or the apex. And then we're again gonna put the wide angle through that at that parietal ridge above the ear down to the occipital bone. So if I'm looking at this new sectioning from the bird's eye view, here's my head, it's going to look like this. So here's my ear to ear. And then another wide triangle there. Okay? So this is what's gonna allow us to start to really open up the face and create more of a bang-like finish through the front or fringe. Okay. We are removing a lot of hair here. So you can definitely feel free to come almost to the, or even to the bottom of the parietal ridge here, and all the way down to that occipital bone. And again, I forgot to say this at the beginning of the video yesterday, but my suggestion is that you sit and watch these videos as I'm posting them live, get a feel for what's going on, and then pull them up later on YouTube and then try to cut at that time. You can take notes right now. I think that's a great idea. I like taking notes, helps me stay focused. Grab one more little piece here. Okay, so really nice kind of beefy section here. You see that? My hand's in the way. All right, we're gonna all right, I think you can probably hear Sesame Street in the background. Beatrice is loving. Okay, so now we're gonna come at this a little bit different. We're gonna create the peak, can't see, the peak here and the wide point here. So it's gonna feel similar to the section you would normally create for a fringe. But maybe wider and deeper than what you would do. Okay, so where does this triangle end? I feel like this is conversation that could go on and on and on. And it's really, really important. So there's a couple things that you can do. You can look at the natural growth pattern, kind of push up and see where the hair starts to separate and fall. Some of this is shortness is going to fall into the internal area of the haircut. This is not a fringe section, so it's not all going to fall forward, though most of it probably will be. What you are trying to do is two things. Remove weight here so that you can see some of that texture through the front, and also open up the face and the eye. So you need to start strategizing around the form or the outline of the haircut around the eye. If you want to see more eye and you want this to create sort of a longer, wider shape, whether the fringe is kind of sweeping off and opening up, or it's falling flat and widening out to open up the face, you're gonna wanna go deeper and wider if their hairline can support it. If they're missing hair there, you're probably gonna wanna stay above the recession as a rule for the most part, okay? So I'm gonna go kind of deep and wide and really push this sort of shag effect a little bit stronger. But if you want to keep it soft, kind of close, really loose, and go from short to long around the eye, then you will probably narrow out this triangle just a little bit. This is one of those times where I really, really encourage you practicing the technique on a mannequin and trying it both ways. So you would start with a smaller triangle and then try the second time with a wider triangle. Okay. We'll make sure that we are balanced through the front. And I will show you this all sectioned when I am done. All right, there we go. So there it is. Done and done. So I'm gonna leave these side areas sectioned out so those can remain sort of separate. So you have these kind of deep, narrow triangles through the side. Reach across. Okay. And then we've got what's below the occipital bone through the back here, and then up into these side areas. We can further sections. We'll probably do that tomorrow. Today we're going to keep pretty close to the same basic sectioning as we did yesterday. I love sectioning, as I've said many times in the course of this series, and sometimes that's why I like to keep it a little bit simpler, because I like to be really thoughtful with those sections and take the time to make sure that they are well articulated. So we're going to start again through the back, through the bottom, just like we did yesterday, and we are definitely going to be creating a very strong square shape back here. So as I said, in this haircut, what you want is for this back to be kind of pushing over the shoulder through the front. So you want to really be tightening this up. Also, when you look at a shag in profile, we want to start to really see the head shape. So we want this back area to really be tucking in, kind of hugging close to the head and revealing a little bit of that occipital bone. That's a really huge key. Let me grab my scissors here. Many people cut shags with a razor. Don't disagree with that, and this haircut can absolutely be done with a razor. It's not how we're going to be doing it today. I'm starting to get a little bit dry. Lots and lots of tension when we are cutting this with our scissor. Okay, so we're gonna tilt her away so we can really get at the section. I am coming right through the center back here. pulling straight out at 90 degrees. You see that here? This is a good angle. Pulling straight out at 90 degrees. And I'm going to be working short to long. I'm kind of sliding my fingers out and down. So this is really getting, my guideline is starting out relatively short. And this can be this short and the hair can be twice as long. So that's why you're going to be using that sliding effect so that you can continue to pull the hair and maintain that perimeter length while getting extremely short at the base of your guideline. Okay, so I'm not over directing yet here. I'm pulling at 90 degrees. I'm looking for my guide. Since I'm cutting with a scissor, I'm going to be lining up to that guide, cupping my hands up. See, my hands are almost parallel to the hair, perpendicular to the head, parallel to the floor, and I'm pulling away. Okay, standing just off to the side so that I can, if I'm standing right in front of my guide, my elbow and arm won't fit. So if you stand just, if you look at me this way, I'm reaching my arm just across a little bit. So if my guideline is here, I'm standing here so I can reach across instead of trying to stand right in front. We just can't fit. We just have these annoying and long arms. Okay, so here, as I start to approach the mastoid bone, my section is going to be rising up. So I'm going to be continuing to elevate, making sure that I'm pulling out at 90 degrees and pulling my hand towards me, all while standing just a little bit off to the side and sliding just a little bit. Okay, I don't have a lot of hair on Viola, so there's not a lot for me to be sliding. Okay, here we're gonna be over directing now for sure. So now we are at the mastoid bone on the outside, so the hair is gonna be coming straight back here. Still pulling back. I'm not pulling back to my first guide, but I am still pulling straight back. So remember when we talked the other day about aiming and thinking about the shape that you're creating as you go. So we're creating that sort of box effect. Okay, still continuing to pull. If I show you maybe this way, pulling back this way. Maybe if we stand like this, you can see, there we go. And I'm still making sure that I'm moving my hands up to get my section at 90 degrees. I don't want to be pulling down like this. See that? If I pull down, I'm lowering my elevation and I'm going to lose the effect of my layer. It's going to create a bump in the middle of a haircut, and it's going to have a really negative effect on the form. That's kind of the beauty of the shag, is creating all of these really, really beautiful layers and seeing that texture move and that length remain, but not seeing those weight points. It's really a very weightless haircut. You can see the head shape and all of that, all while still kind of framing out the eyes and maintaining some length. So there we go. Starting to see that movement happening, which is really fun. The sun is starting to brighten up. So when I cross-check this, it is really flat back here. I'm pulling all of this back, and I have a very flat line. Okay? It's good. Okay. See those little kicks and turns? That's pretty. See, I'm going to turn this just a little bit because it's getting too bright. We love working with the sun as our light, right? Okay, so on this side, the hand position is going to definitely, I'm going to be reaching across. There's a couple different ways I've learned to work with this hand position of cupping. I like to maintain the same hand position and walk across. So I'm still reaching across with my hand, and then I'm taking steps with my feet to make sure that I'm able to pull my guide where it needs to be. The most important part is that you can get that extension of your palm and slide out. So if I invert my hand, I feel like that's just not easy for me to do. But you really, really need to be mindful of where you're standing and where you're pulling the hair so as not to under direct. You don't want to get into your guidelines, so you don't want to step forward into that corner, and you want to stay back, but also not over directing across back. You're going to have a tendency to want to pull your hand back to the left side of your body if you're right-handed, or right side if you're left-handed. So you just need to be really mindful of how you are aiming in this section. You're also going to need to drop your mannequin head down just a little bit to get that control. Maintain moisture in the hair. A little bit too much hair here. So I'm going to comb into my new hair and then back out. Cross. You see, I can see my guide, and I'm still sliding. Taking a peek at my cross check as I get started. This is not an easy way to cut. So I'm looking directly at where the hair is coming out of the head. I'm looking at where I'm standing in reference to the head, using my fine teeth for good tension, checking for my guide. So this is where I should start over directing just a little bit, not all the way to the previous subsection, just thinking about that shape that I'm building, making that flat box. And sliding my palm towards me. It also really helps right here to do a quick check with tension. You cut this with tension so you can do this. And you can cross check and double check. It just takes a minute to do this, and this is not an easy way to cut hair, so I really find it helpful. It looks like I've got some length in here. There it is. So see, it helps. I mean, that's what we were talking about the other day, especially while you're home and you have time to take your time with these things. You want to stay calm when you're cutting hair. Don't want to panic. You can always go back and take more off if need be. There we go. Okay. So again, making sure that your palm is elevating up in reference to the head, so you're getting that hair out at 90 degrees. Your fingertips are pointing towards the head. Your hand is parallel with the hair. This shoulder and elbow, they have to reach up and over to get, you want the shear to be also parallel with the hair, so pointing back at your chest. It's not easy. But it really, to use this technique, it's really what needs to happen. Okay, I can see my guide, palm towards me, fine teeth of my comb, reaching across my body. Last subsection. Cupping action. And the hair sort of drops out as you get to that perimeter. And this is perfect. So you can see it's very sparse on the mannequin, but you've got that kind of loose, wispy texture through the bottom. And then also you look at this in profile, you can start to see a little bit of, let's see if you can get that head shape starting to come through. There you go. See that? Okay, that is all really good. Okay, so now we're gonna work through these side sections, really very much the same as yesterday. Fingertips down and in, and we are gonna elevate here because we want to maintain some length for now. We're gonna cut this twice. This haircut goes really quick, so we do cut some of the sections twice, but I like that to put the weight in the right place. So now what we're gonna do, I'm pulling this straight up. Oops, too much tension here. Back away so that you can see me. Pulling this straight up, and I'm gonna be cutting this from short to long. So maintaining some of that length. I am not over directing. Pulling straight up from short to long. Got that? So again, we're trying to reveal the head shape and really get this layered. So you can see I'm taking more off. I turn to the side here because I over directed this when we cut it yesterday. So we've still got some length here, but you can see it's kind of getting wispy and again, starting to reveal that head shape. All right. Moisture in there. I'm gonna come from behind now so I can keep my fingertips toward the center. No over direction. You can take a quick peek with your previous guide. Oh, my shirt's too dark. Right here. So I can see where my previous guide was. So let's see. Wow. Go just a skosh shorter. Just a skosh. I have some friends that think they've never heard the word skosh. I use it a lot when I'm teaching. Okay, I'm gonna comb from behind and then back into my guide. And my last section, I'm gonna do the same thing because I want to achieve as little over direction as possible because I am trying to remove weight. Okay, so let's cross check this. There we go, looks good. Cross check this. There we go, looks good. Okay. All right. So now through this back crown, this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. As I said, in this approach, we are sometimes going to be cutting hair twice. So I'm gonna cut this from this side so that you can see we are a little bit dry here. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to be taking this and cutting this short to long right here, okay? So pointing my fingers right down kind of in the center here. Okay. All right, so taking as much length off here as possible. Sometimes you're gonna wanna leave some length back here if someone wants to wear something that feels a little bit heavier. You know, they don't want it to feel so much like a short haircut. So you can create all of those short bits around the face and then undercut to give some contour, but then leave a bunch of this length to kind of hide some of that shortness if someone still wants to feel like they're wearing longer hair. So this is all coming straight up. So we've got a little bit of over direction in there, okay? I know it's really hard to see. I'm gonna come back. I'm also cutting these sections a little bit faster too. This haircut's probably gonna have more refinement at the end. There's so much layering in it. You know, the goal is not perfect subsections. The goal is weight removal in a balanced way. And when I say balanced, I don't mean perfect. I just mean in a way that looks balanced. So checking throughout is good, but overthinking or overworking each section is just gonna become kind of tiresome for the haircut. Okay, so we've got that weight off the crown, and you can definitely start to see, I pull this up, where we're really getting that contour. But you can see we just created kind of this chunk of weight that can sit out there. Oh, I don't like the word chunk. Okay, cross check, looks good. Okay, so I still have my triangle where I can see it. So I'm gonna pull it all back up in my hands. So can you see that? Okay. And I'm gonna stand on the other side. And I know we just cut and established all this length, and now I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm gonna kind of work it from all three sides and get some of that off. You can use a twist technique to do that. I'm gonna show you that tomorrow, so don't worry. And you can see how that just breaks up that weight point, and you really start to see that contour in the head. Looks really, really beautiful. So that's how you cut the back of a shag. A lot of times when you see people cutting a shag, they talk about the front, because that's really the fun and most exciting part. But everyone else is also looking at the back of your hair. And that's really quick, it's really great, and it's an awesome way to kind of get, you want that kind of bump it action going on back there in a true shag. It's gonna contour the face nicely. Okay, last step, just kind of a couple steps. So this is really gonna be the most challenging part of the technique. So I'm gonna draw this. Part of it drawn. So we are going to take this triangle right now. So this back triangle, we just took in vertical subsections like that, okay? This triangle through the front, we're actually going to take pie shape, okay? Alternating, all right? And when we take these, there's no good way to draw it, but we're gonna be short to long, and then long to short, and short to long, and long to short, and short to long, and then long to short. You wanna end on the same technique that you started on, which you want to be short from the internal area of the head shape to long towards the external part of the haircut, towards the perimeter. And I know that probably sounds really confusing, so let me show you what I mean. Okay, so just for viewers' sake, and to keep things a little bit more organized, let's throw some clips through the side of this. Okay, so now we've just got this section right here, this triangle section. So I'm going to divide this up, and we can do it in advance. We can divide them all up if you want, okay? So we've got 5 sections. Okay? I'm trying to make them a little bit balanced. All right, so can you see that I have 5 sections, okay, hanging over the head shape? So I am gonna disconnect each one of these sections. I'm gonna turn to the side so you can see my cutting angle. So on this section, I'm gonna pull straight up at 90 degrees off of the head shape. Pull this behind. Lots and lots of tension straight up. And I am gonna cut this short to long. Okay. Then I'm going to turn my body position, so I would walk across. The body position of this is a little bit cumbersome, but it works so well. I love it. So I'm going to turn her actually. So this is her face. I back up. Can you see? Now I've got her face. I'm on section 2, and I'm pulling down, down in a graduated technique. See, down, here's the top of the head, here's her face, I'm pulling down, and I'm cutting short from the face to long. So this is cutting graduation or cutting round. This is cutting layering and cutting triangular. So I'm gonna turn her again, and I'm going to do the same thing. And I am not going to try and match this up to the first section. It does not need to be the same length. I would look at the weight and look at how much length or weight I want to take out or take off. I'm going to keep working this. She's got a lot of hair in her front hairline, so I'm going to keep working this. It's still shorter to longer, just a much more gradual slope than the first section that I did. Reversing my body one more time, combing that section I just cut away so I can see what I'm doing. Pushing my fingertips down towards the face, pulling straight out of the head, but down. And cutting some graduation. Short towards the face to long. Last section. Gonna have to reach across the head, making sure I'm pulling straight out of the head. Again, fingertips down towards the center. And short to long here. Okay. So let me back off my camera. See if you can start to see this. And you can see how it's really starting to break up into that shag shape. It's drying. So there's too much length in the front, which always ends up there's some length hanging over the eye. That's nice because what the last thing that you want to do is create this sort of short, choppy bit right there. So generally what I do is to remove that additional length, even while it is still partially dry. I'm gonna take visually and just start to take that length off. Especially if I'm gonna be building in a sweep here. Okay, and you can start to refine that as it dries just a little bit. I know we talked about not doing that yesterday, but in this technique, we are trying to remove maximum weight always. So we're trying to take off as much hair all the time and usually in a pretty short amount of time. So you can see you've got this movement kind of working away from the face up into some nice, like a little buildup of weight in the crown area. You can also start to carve all of this out and really open this up, which maybe I can take the time to do. So I'm gonna reverse my shears here. I'm just looking at the natural texture that she has kind of coming in here. And then gently kind of coming across. I'm not working this down, I'm pushing it back across into the haircut. So do you see where her eye is? I'm gonna keep going down in the shape of her eye into the haircut because we want this little kick to kind of come over the length and open up that way. So this is with minimal refinement, almost nothing, just kind of taking the length off. I think what I'll do is actually let this air dry so you can see the effect of this, and then shoot a video where we get it wet and start to show how we can take this a little bit further. But I hope you love that shag technique. It's been working really well for me in the salon. DM me if you have questions, comments, ideas. It's great to see you this morning. You can access this video again at the link in my bio on YouTube. I hope that you are safe and healthy and doing well. Thanks so much. Bye.